What if we don't miss life's treasures because they're hidden, but because we try to outsmart the moment we recognize their worth? And what if the tragedy isn't ignorance, but hesitation, dressed as strategy? In a quiet village carved between dry hills and wind-worn trees, there lived a man who worked with the earth. He was a farmer. Not rich, not poor, but honest. His life was made of rhythm, simple, grounded, whole. Each morning before the sun spilled color across the sky, he walked barefoot to the fields. The soil knew his hands, and he knew its silence. Dig, plant, breathe, harvest, sell, begin again. It wasn't a life of abundance, but it was a life of peace. Until one morning, while turning a stubborn patch of earth, something unfamiliar caught the corner of his eye. Not a root, not a stone, but something in between, smooth, clear. It caught the light like still water touched by flame. He picked it up, turned it in his palm, wiped it against his shirt. What a beautiful little rock, he whispered to no one. And not knowing what else to do with it, he tied a string around it and let it rest against his chest. A quiet, glimmering companion, pressed near his heart as he returned to the soil. Later that week, while passing through the village market, the sparkle around his neck caught another pair of eyes. A merchant, tired from arranging onions and chasing flies, squinted beneath his brow. "Hey," he called, "what's that shining on you?" The farmer looked down. "Oh, just something I found while digging." "Pretty, isn't it?" The merchant stepped closer. "How much you want for it?" The farmer shrugged. 50 coins? Done. No bargaining, no questions. Just the kind of deal that feels good to someone who doesn't need more. The merchant tied the stone to the hanging scale in his shop. It swayed gently above the counter, catching the eyes of children, the curiosity of strangers. It became part of the market, beautiful, nameless, unclaimed. Until one day, a traveler entered the shop. Not just any traveler, a jeweler from a far-off town. He came for lentils, dates, a bit of spice, but his gaze was fixed elsewhere. He walked to the counter, eyes barely flicking toward the merchant. "Nice trinket you've got hanging there," he said, nodding casually at the stone. The merchant glanced up. "Oh, that? Something a farmer sold me." Gave him 50 coins. The jeweler's heart skipped, but his face didn't flinch. He leaned closer, inspecting the stone as if it were nothing more than curiosity. Interesting cut. Probably just glass. Still, makes a nice piece. I'll give you 80 coins for it. No questions asked." The merchant raised an eyebrow. 80? For something you think is glass? The jeweler smiled, almost smug. "Well, I like the way it catches light. Would go well in my workshop window." The merchant crossed his arms. "No. 100. A slight pause. The jeweler tilted his head. 90 then. Final offer. 100. "You're a tough one," the jeweler said, smirking. "Maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow." And with a flick of his sleeve, he turned on his heel and walked out, as if the stone would wait. But that night, another traveler arrived. His cart had broken. He was tired, hungry. He noticed the stone. He didn't bargain. Didn't hesitate. Only smiled. "What a beautiful stone. I'll give you what you ask." And just like that, the diamond found a new home. The next morning, just as the village stirred to life, the first jeweler returned. Confident, composed, certain the moment was still his. He stepped inside, already reaching into his satchel. "I've decided," he said. "I'll take the stone." The merchant didn't flinch. He was arranging sacks of lentils behind the counter. "It's gone." The jeweler froze. "Gone?" The merchant nodded calmly. "Someone came last night, paid what I asked, took it home." The jeweler blinked. His mouth opened, then shut. "You fool," he hissed. "That stone was worth a fortune." The merchant looked at him for a long moment, then smiled, not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who's seen enough. "Maybe I am ignorant, but not a fool," he said. "I didn't know what I had." He paused. "But you did, and still, you haggled, you hesitated, you lost something priceless over 10 coins. He didn't wait for a reply, just turned back to his lentils, and the morning went on. Outside, the village kept moving. The wind rustled the trees. The day began again. And somewhere, far from the noise, a simple man wore a diamond without knowing. A merchant sold it without regret. And a traveler who acted with clarity carried home a treasure not just of value, but of truth. But the first jeweler? He walked away empty-handed, not because he lacked knowledge, but because he let pride argue with wisdom. He thought he had time. He thought he had leverage, but what he didn't have was clarity without pride. And that, more than any coin, was what cost him the diamond. Some say value is about the object, but more often, it's about the eyes and the soul that know how to see. The farmer didn't know. The merchant assumed. But the first jeweler knew, and still tried to negotiate with certainty. And in that effort to win, he lost everything. Not because the diamond vanished, but because his pride kept asking for more, even after his wisdom had already spoken. He wanted the treasure, but on his terms. And so, he bargained not with the merchant, but with the moment itself. That's how many of life's treasures escape us. Not because we don't recognize them, but because we try to outmaneuver them. We want the miracle, but cheaper. We want love, but without surrender. We want truth, but only if it comes on sale. In this life, wisdom is not about taking advantage. It's not about winning at someone else's expense. True wisdom is reaching the point where we understand that real success is shared. When everyone walks away having gained something. True wisdom is learning to stop bargaining and start honoring. So maybe the real lesson isn't about diamonds at all. It's about recognizing value, acting with honor, and choosing to be the kind of person who sees beauty and doesn't try to bargain it down. I hope you like this tale. And if you believe in stories that invite reflection, that remind us to see clearly and act wisely, consider leaving a like and subscribe for more tales like this one. Also share it with someone who might be standing at the edge of their own decision. Someone who's hesitating when their heart already knows the answer. And above all, I wish you a blessed life, rich in discernment, quick to honor what matters, and never too proud to say yes to the treasures that cross your path.